Episode 6 of WandaVision has just dropped, and while every episode before this one has been extremely eventful, this one may have been a particular doozy. The 6th episode riffs on Malcolm in the Middle as Wanda and Vision gear up for Halloween with their kids and their Uncle Pietro, while Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy try to work against Hayward after his little drone incident from last week's episode. There'll be major spoilers from here on in, but I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture, and with me today to discuss the episode, I Can Talk, is Amy. How are you doing, Amy?
Hey, I'm all good. How are you yourself now?
I'm good. I've recovered from last week where I was watching In the Shadows as I kind of just was like, and was admiring your valiant job relaying what was a mind-blowing episode of the series.
It was. Last week was a bit of a bomb of an episode, but I do find myself saying that most weeks as it feels like they get better every time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think every single episode has impressed me, but I would think I might say that this is like in the top 3 for me, maybe, because whereas obviously I'm aware of all the older sitcoms that they've referenced and, talked about and, parodied, I grew up with Malcolm in the Middle, and to see them actually riff on that classic kind of, the fourth wall breaking narration and everything from Tommy and Billy, I thought that was really clever. And to see Paul Bettany do his hapless Hal Bryan Cranston impression at the beginning of the episode when he was still in character was great fun too. But yeah, I thought, just to talk about the little kind of Easter eggs we get at the beginning, I loved seeing Vision and Scarlet Witch in their classic comic book outfits, but not just them either, because we also get to see Evan Peters as Pietro in the classic Quicksilver outfit with the gelled hair, and obviously, Tommy and Billy kind of have little nods to their Speed and Wiccan outfits in the comics as well, which I didn't think it was done in a kind of like a mocking way. It seems like it's a genuine celebration of the source material, and I was a huge fan of that.
It does, and I think they did it in such a tasteful way, and the way that they sort of worked it into the overall sort of theme of the episode of being Halloween and everything isn't quite as it seems. At one point, one of the kids comments on sort of you getting to be not yourself for a day, getting to be someone else, when really, if you think about it, that's what everyone in the town is doing all the time. So it's just sort of little nods like that do make me smile so far.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, speaking of Halloween, the episode wasn't exactly short of, scary moments. We saw at the end of last week's episode how Vision was more and more resolved to figure out what the hell was going on, having, kind of spoken to Norm and, gotten inside his mind and, seen the real him for a brief moment of time. And we see him here kind of go out on his own and lead his own investigation to see the limits of Wanda's powers. And, he goes to the outer reaches of Westview and encounters people who just aren't behaving normally at all. We get that really creepy moment with the homeowner who's setting up Halloween decorations, but she's stuck in a loop and is just crying. I really felt for that person, because who hasn't been there just trying desperately to erect their Halloween decorations and just one tear just falls down their eye because they can't get it to work.
Where it feels like we're all stuck in a loop at points. But no, and I thought it was quite a big moment for Vision as well, in that we've seen him get more suspicious and more unnerved about what's going on. But it felt like taking the step of lying to Wanda's face about where he's going, saying he's doing the neighborhood watch as if he's still playing her game, he's still going along with her narrative, and then going behind her back and trying by himself to figure out what's going on. I thought that was a real moment of development for him, of where we've seen that he's crossed his line now. He can't continue to just calm himself down and ignore things anymore.
And the thing that I love most about that is that even though we know that he's still an amnesiac, given that he isn't, he doesn't remember the events of his life before entering Westview, but he's still out there to do good. It kind of reiterates the stuff we saw in Avengers Age of Ultron, where, he was considered worthy enough to lift Thor's hammer. And, I thought that was like a really nice moment. And it's a testament to Vision's, kind of heroic nature, that even though he's still not sure what is going on, he wants to do all he can to help people. But to talk about, when he gets to the outer reaches of Westview, obviously he encounters Agnes. Now, for weeks and weeks and weeks now, we've kind of speculated that Agnes has more to her than she's letting on. Yeah. But this episode really reiterated that maybe that's not the case, and maybe she is genuinely as much a victim of everyone else in Westview as much as they are. So I was really I'm still convinced there is something else going on here, and that it isn't just Wanda, and I will get to the stuff that Pietro mentions at some point about her children, because there was a cheeky little Easter egg I thought that was a reference to how they were created, using a fragment of Mephisto's soul. At one point he refers to them as a demon spawn at one point, which I thought was very interesting. And it seems as though Pietro is definitely the most, aware of all the characters there, apart from Vision. He seems to be, whereas Agnes as well, she has that moment in the other episode where she asks Wanda if she can do her lines again. We get kind of things from Pietro where he's aware of the artifice of it all. But yeah, what do you think's going on? I realize I just rambled massively there, but what do you think's going on with Agnes? Because I still don't know.
I've been suspicious of her for a long time. I was very much, honestly, until this episode, where it felt like we did get more of a confirming moment than we've had before, that really she, even if there is still a little reservation as to maybe there is something deeper to her, overall, she seems to be just as much in the dark as a lot of other people around, and I really thought that wasn't going to be the case. And it was quite a jarring moment, actually, to see her in the car, frozen on the outskirts, and to have Vision sort of break through underneath this facade, and just this outburst from her, which we're obviously very unused to, because Agnes is the perfect fit. Most of the time it's as if she knows she's in this show and she doesn't really seem to care. She's just carrying on living her nice little life. But no, underneath that, she really is concerned. She's confused. She doesn't understand why Vision doesn't understand what's going on either. And no, that definitely showed me a side of her that I've been a little suspicious of, but I'll give her the benefit of the doubt from now on a little bit more.
But yeah, I mean, they also, we talked briefly about how all the other characters have their classic comics outfit. She is wearing a witch outfit, and obviously the theory at the moment is that Agnes is actually Agatha Harkness, who was a witch involved in Scarlet Witch's stories a few decades ago. So I still think there's more to the character than is currently being let on. But I also I want to talk about Evan Peters' Quicksilver as well, because I've noticed as well, they have that brief kind of, it was always a little obtuse, the little reference to Kick-Ass, where they dwell on, Wanda mentions Kick-Ass again, because obviously he was in Kick-Ass. But yeah, what do you think he has been plucked from the multiverse, or do you think the thing with this, right? The thing that really kind of confuses me is that Wanda she did not conjure him into existence, I don't think, or at least she isn't aware that she did. Pietro in this episode says, you brought me in after I was shot or whatever, and then I heard you, then I came. But some people were saying last week that it could potentially be someone else impersonating Pietro, and the fact that he said demon spawn when referencing the two kids, it feels like more than just a little nod and a wink towards the comics.
It does feel a little bit as if he knows more than he's letting on, and it did seem to me slightly bizarre that his description of how he got there was, I heard you calling, you needed me. That seems very, very vague for someone who seems to be otherwise quite aware, if you know sort of what I mean, with the little references and little digs here and there, and even that moment where he makes that very distasteful comment about your dead husband can't die twice and then gets zapped. That kind of description for someone who otherwise seems quite aware and quite sort of blasé about what's going on didn't quite work for me. So I'm with you on that it could be the case of someone impersonating him, or what I was thinking last week was that there's someone else that must be behind this, someone who's plucked him out and put him there. We're thinking about the multiverse last week as well. The big driver on it for me was the thought of what's going on in the wider context of MCU and the upcoming Doctor Strange film and things like that. But yeah, how do you feel about the multiverse kind of discussion going on?
Yeah, definitely. I think that is something that we could maybe see a little bit more of going forward, because obviously we still don't know who Monica's linking up with at the minute. She mentions earlier on in the episode that in last week's episode, she mentioned a physicist, I think, and then there was a talk about she was linking up with a contact in this episode, I believe, as well. I don't know how that might intersect with upcoming films, but I definitely think at this point we can probably presume that when she goes back into the Hex, that might be how she gets her powers as Photon. Because Darcy mentions here that she's got her blood's changing on a molecular level, and that, I think, is kind of very cool. But yeah, I kind of want to also talk about Darcy and Jimmy and, you know, what they go through this episode, because Hayward, he is not a nice fella. He is really irritating, and I thought their efforts to kind of figure out what's going on, and Darcy obviously comes across the cataract weapon. You know, when you talk about cataracts, you think of something to do with your eyes, so... Yeah. I'm curious to see what exactly Hayward is planning there.
For me, it's the fact that he's withholding information a lot of the time as well. Like, before, he waited an awful long time before revealing to people and his team, the people that he's meant to be working closely with. He waited a very long time before revealing the footage showing Wanda going and stealing the bits of Vision's corpse, which also... There's bits of Vision. What was he doing with them? A lot of people are saying reverse engineering weapons and all that. And then again, this episode with Darcy hacking in and finding that he's able to track Vision and see where he is inside Westview. But that's information that he's once again failed to share with anybody. What is the motivation for that? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm really concerned as well by the fact that he didn't want to help Vision when he stepped out of Westview. Darcy's, you know, she breaks her cover to kind of be like, why aren't you helping him? And, you know, it's clearly putting him in an immense amount of pain. He's literally tearing his body apart to try and get them to help the people in Westview. But they didn't seem all that concerned about it. And I know there have been theories that maybe Sword are responsible for something to do with this as well. We really don't know. And I really enjoyed the fact, I mentioned this before, that like, I love the fact that even though we are getting little tiny crumbs of the mystery getting kind of revealed, I still like how, you know, we only have like a couple of episodes left, and I'm still kind of like, what the hell is going on? You sent me that message on Slack earlier on, the let me in guy. I feel like that constantly with WandaVision and its many secrets.
Because it feels like even though every episode we get some kind of big event or big reveal, it's not the case that quite early on we found out sort of what was going on and then the rest of the episodes are an elongated battle. It's very much been that we feel like we're piecing things together at about the same rate as the characters are. And I mean, that is a very good way to do things, especially because it is Disney Plus and they do want to keep people coming back week after week. But I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because it's definitely been very engaging.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, next week's episode will be very interesting to keep an eye on, obviously, with Tommy and Billy, who I think probably will assume their superhero mantle at the end of the series and think they'll be aged up slightly to join the Young Avengers as Speed and Wiccan. Obviously, they develop their powers in this week's episode. And with Wanda expanding the anomaly as well, we're in the end game. But yeah, I want to know what you all think of WandaVision Episode 6 down in the comments below. What do you think's going on with Agnes, and what do you think is coming in the episodes to come? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and to subscribe to What Culture if you haven't already, because we're great, and we also have lots of cool MCU content coming in the weeks and months ahead. Obviously, WandaVision ends soon, but then we also have The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it will literally never, ever stop. Also, be sure to find more content like this at whatculture.com in the written word. If you want to, you can follow me on Twitter at Ewan Ruins Things, and you can follow Amy on Twitter at
Amy Rapier.
And we will see you soon. Bye.